Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Welcome to this lecture. So, in this lecture, we will be talking about primary data and methods, primary and secondary data, and collection of methods for collecting primary data and methods for collecting secondary data. So, what is primary data and what is secondary data? A common classification is based upon who collected the data. Okay, so this classification is based on the person who is collecting data. Now, what is primary data? Primary data is a type of data that is collected by a researcher, investigator directly from the main source. Okay, so there are 2 or 3 points. One is this is collected by the researcher or investigator, and the second important point is directly from the main source. Okay, this is the data is collected directly from the source, and the methods that are used are interviews, survey, experiment, etc. Okay, so primary data are usually collected from the source where the data originally originates from and are regarded as the best kind of data in research. Okay, the sources of primary data are usually chosen and tailored specifically to meet the demands or requirements of a particular research. Okay, so before collecting data, we know in advance the purpose of the research and our targets. Also, before choosing the data collected source, things like the aim of the research and target population need to be identified. Okay, now what is secondary data? So secondary data is collected by someone else for some other purpose, but being utilized by the investigator for another purpose. In secondary data, the data is originally collected for some other purpose by someone else, but an investigator used their data for his own purpose. Okay, now methods for collecting primary data. There are different methods. For example, interview method, Delphi method, projective method, focus group, and questionnaire methods. So these are the different methods for collecting primary data. Now we will discuss these methods in detail. The first method is interview method, and this is the most widely used primary data collection method, wherein the interviewer asks questions either personally or through mail or telephone from the respondents to obtain the insight of the problem under study. Okay, the researcher may either visit the respondent in person at his home or meet him at the central location as mutually decided by them. In this method, the data is collected by using interviews. Okay, and he prepares some survey type questions. Okay, and he asks these questions, and then from the answers he records these things. Okay, now, the second method is a Delphi method. In Delphi method, it is a forecasting technique wherein the researcher elicits the information from the panel of experts, either personally or through a questionnaire sent through the mail. Now, this is also a type of interview, but in this method, the interviewees are experts in the area. Okay, here each expert and his respective field is asked to give their opinions on the problem concerned, and the consolidated view of all is used to reach for the most accurate answer. Okay, so this Delphi method is used to get information from the experts. Now, the third one is projective technique. The projective technique or the unstructured and an indirect interview method used where the respondents are reluctant to give answers if the objective is disclosed. Now, if the objectives are clear to the respondents, then usually they don't give answers. Now, for example, let's say that a research is related to study the university financial affairs, and let's say that if the objective is to know the transparency level in the financial matters, then those involved in dealing the financial matters would be reluctant to give answers to the questions. So in this case, projective techniques will be used. In order to deal with such situation, the respondents are provided with incomplete stimulus and are required to complete it, through which their underlying motivation, attitude, opinion, feelings, etc. are uh, understood. Okay, so different techniques are used in this method. For example, thematic appreciation test, role playing, cartoon completion, word association, sentence completion. These are the different methods. Now, what is thematic appreciation test? Here, the respondent is presented with multiple pictures and then is asked to describe what he thinks the picture represents. Okay, so and then from these representation, the person who is doing research concludes some things. Role playing. Under this method, the respondents are given the imaginary situation and are asked to enact in a way they would have if the situation is real. And in cartoon completion, here the respondents are shown the cartoon pictures comprising of two or more characters, and then they are asked to give their ideas and opinion about the characters. Okay, so this is another method, word association. Here the researchers provide a set of words to the respondent and then ask them to tell what comes to their mind when they hear a particular word. Okay, sentence completion. The researcher provides the incomplete sentences to the respondents and asks them to complete it. This is done to check the ideas of the respondent. Okay, now the fourth method is focused group interview or focus group discussion. It is one of the widely used data collection method wherein a small group of people, usually 6 to 12 members, come together to discuss the common area of the problem. Here, each individual is required to provide his insight on the issue concerned and reach to a unanimous decision. In this interview, there is a moderator who regulates the discussion among the group members. So this is discussion and group discussion actually, and from this group discussion, the moderator usually control the flow of discussion, and he comes to the conclusion at the end of the discussion. Okay, now the last method for primary data collection is questionnaire method. Okay, so this is a common method. Questionnaire is the most evident method of data collection, which is comprised of a set of questions related to the research problem. This method is very convenient in case the data are to be collected from the diverse population. It mainly includes the printed set of questions, either open-ended or close-ended. Do you know open-ended and close-ended question? Open-ended means that you put questions and then the respondent can write anything in the answer, and close-ended are those questions where you give some option A, B, C, D, and the respondent that don't have any option to write anything beyond your provided options. So you give some options and they have to select from these options, which the respondents are required to answer on the basis of their knowledge and experience with the issue concerned. Okay, now it is to be noted that these primary data collection methods can be used to collect both the qualitative and quantitative data. We will discuss what is qualitative and quantitative data in detail in our coming lectures. Okay, now methods for collecting secondary data. Okay, the researcher can obtain data from the source, both internal and external to the organization. Secondary data, we already discussed that in this case the data is collected by someone else for some other purpose, but a given researcher use it for a different purpose. Okay, this was the definition of secondary data and methods for collecting secondary data. So the researcher can use internal sources So the internal sources are organizations, let's say health and safety record, mission and vision statement, financial statements, magazines, sales reports, CRM software reports, and executive summaries. Okay, these are the internal sources which the researcher can use. And external sources are, let's say, government supports, reports, press releases, business journals, libraries, and internets. The secondary data collection methods too can involve both quantitative and qualitative techniques. Secondary data is easily available and hence less than consuming and expensive as compared to the primary data. However, with secondary data collection method, the authenticity of the data gathered can't be verified. Now, this is the question, that the authenticity can't be verified. Okay, now this is a general summary. Data collection method. This is primary data collection method, and this is secondary data collection method. In primary data collection methods, we use surveys, polls, interviews, Delphi technique, focus groups, etc. And in secondary data collection methods, we use financial reports, sales reports, government reports, vision mission statements, and internet, etc. Okay, thank you very much.